Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another day, another week, Wednesday edition of 30NSG. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Apple wants to take Epic to more of court. They want to continue doing a court with Epic Games. We're going to talk about rumored Nintendo Switch. The next Nintendo Switch has surfaced, and we're also going to talk a big portion of Battlebit Remastered. Battlebit Remastered, as you can tell, has been picking up steam, no pun intended, on Steam over the last couple of weeks, but that's not where the game has come from. So we're going to look at the history of Battlebit Masters, check a little bit about what this game has progressed through, because I'm interested in it. I'm interested in the game. We played it last night, enjoyed it very much, but we're going to take a look at the in-depth, and then we're going to look at it and have a conversation, because there's two videos I want to watch. There's two videos that two separate content creators kind of calling out Battlebit remasters versus Battlefield, and I'm gonna make that comparison all day long, right? What Battlebit is, it feels like what Battlefield was, and Battlefield, I've always said on our stream and our podcast that we do, has lost its identity, and I feel like Battlebit Masters or Remastered has picked up that slack. So we're gonna go over that today. We're gonna start off with Apple versus Epic. If you guys like this type of content, please make sure you hit that like button down below. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button so you know when we go live. And if you want to go above and beyond that, you can become a member for a little as $5. Helps us out here on the channel. All right, so first up is Apple wants to take Epic Games case to the Supreme Court. Now, Apple's moved to bring its high-profile Epic Games case to the Supreme Court in the last-ditch effort to protect its App Store profits. Now, Apple plans to petition for the Epic Games case to be heard in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, and the move will mark as a second appeal request proceeding, as Apple already appealed the first instance verdict of Epic Games case in late 2021. The ongoing legal clash started in 2020 when Epic implemented changes into Fortnite in its effort to bypass Apple's payment processing mechanisms and avoid paying 30% cut from the game's microtransactions to iPhone Maker. Now, Apple then pulled Fortnite from the App Store, which prompted Epic to launch an antitrust lawsuit against the tech giant. Now, N and Y Apple's countersuit filed in response to move was soon dismissed. The U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California ruled in the favor of the 9 out of 10 counts of the original case. However, the court also ruled that Apple must allow third-party purchases options in apps as part of the same verdict. Now, after the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court appeals mostly upheld the decision to Epic Games versus Apple's case this past April, the iPhone maker is now looking to petition the Supreme Court to reconsider the second instance verdict. In a July 3rd court filing obtained by Recruiter, Apple argued that the appeals court decision is to issue a nationwide injunction against Apple due to its alleged violation of California's unfair competition law and constitutes judicial overreach. For context, that said ruling stems from the court's findings that Apple's anti-steering policy is preventing developers from directing or even so much as informing its users about the third-party iOS storefronts or anti-competitive. Although Apple intends to continue fighting the actual content of the decision, it has now requested a stay of the court's mandate on the basis of a nationwide injunction against its anti-steering practices, reaching an alleged violation of California's antitrust law. The tech giant Journey also argued that the original lawsuit only had a single plaintiff. Epic concluded that the counter's mandate to stop Apple from enforcing an anti-steering policy against all developers on iOS apps available in the U.S., and hence the overreaching. While Apple is also arguing that the petition of the Supreme Court has dissent chance of being heard due to substantial questions of the law, it raises and remains to be seen whether the ultimate appealing authority in the U.S. agrees with the sentiment. Now, according to the official website, the stateside judicial system, the Supreme Court is asking to review over 7,000 cases each year, but only agrees to hear about 100 to 150 such petitions on an annual basis. In 2021, Epic CEO Tim Sweeney said that Fortnite won't be returning to the iOS for around 5 or more years due to the company's ongoing legal clash with Apple. However, the latest celebratory New Year's tweet suggested that the game will reappear on the App Store sometime in 2023. So they're going back and forth. And look, I get it, right? Epic had to play ball for the longest time because they weren't making the money that they wanted to make. But then Fortnite came along. And all of a sudden, Epic went from small-time game company to massive conglomerate company with, billions of dollars coming in because of Fortnite. And now they could throw their weight around. They went on and they started buying other assets for motion detection, for motion capture, for face. They've made the Unreal Engine 5. They've gotten to Hollywood now, where they basically make all the special effects. They could throw their weight around because now they're making really good money. And they said, no, we're not going to pay that 30% markup, or 30% of your percentage of our sales to you, because we could be making so much more money off of it. Now, look, if I want to get my product into Target, Walmart, all those places, I have to pay a percentage, right? Because of shelf space and all the other stuff. That's what they're doing here. Apple makes the storefront. Microsoft makes the storefront. PlayStation makes the storefront, right? Like, all these game companies in one shape, way, or form, if it's on PC, if it's on console, they all have their storefronts. If it's Steam, if it's Apple, if it's Microsoft, PlayStation, doesn't matter where it is, Nintendo, they all have their standard 30%. Now, obviously, Steam does less. Epic does less as well on their own launcher, and they don't want to pay that money, so they're going there. But Apple's like, look, if we let you do this, then this is going to set us a precedent where other people don't want to do it as well, and they don't want to do that. This is why they want to take it to the Supreme Court. What's going on, Travis? What's going on, Dabstick? What's up, Viking? Going to GameStop today, but got to ask, is Conan Exiles any good? I mean, I enjoyed it, but it's a survival game. I think it's better with a group of friends, so if you have people to play it, sure. But if you're playing by yourself, it might get a little boring. That's just my opinion. Yeah, Dabstick's like, I owned it, but I played 6 years and played all about 6 hours. I would say you get more hours out of that. It's probably not Dabstick's cup of tea. Yeah, I mean, it's different though, right? Conan and Ark are like the same, but let's be honest. Ark, when it came out, was nowhere near what Conan was, and then Ark got better over the years. So, Apple definitely wants to make sure that it gets into the Supreme Court because they want to make sure that they can not do what Epic... No other company can do what Epic did by not, by offsetting. And then Microsoft wasn't any help. They're like, yeah, you can just use the browser. You don't have to use... You can use the browser, right? And you can do that way. Well, actually, there's more news about Ark. I don't have the news story, but I read it. Basically, what was funny is, remember that Ark was going to give Ark 2, right? They were going to make it like a DLC, but then they decided they were going to charge full price for it because it was in beta. Then they decided they were going to postpone it, and then they were going to charge you because people were pissed off. And now what they're doing is they're going back on their word again. So now they're putting it back out, and you're not paying for it. I don't know what they're doing. I didn't want to really talk about it too much until I found out all the gists of it. Kylo says Apple can just stick to making hardware, and they never been known as a gaming company, just overpriced hardware. And I'm watching this on my own iPhone. That's not true, Kylo. They are the leaders in video games right now with the Apple Arcade. They literally are the leader of the mobile market. They decided not to publish games because they were going to get in the market of consoles. There was a time that they were going to buy PlayStation and be a part of that. They were going to make, basically, the PlayStation would have been the iStation or whatever the hell you want to call it. Okay. And they decided that they were going to go a different route, which they did. They went to the mobile phone route, the mobile media, and then they started the subscription service of Apple Arcade. So they basically, and this is why Microsoft has said that their competition is not PlayStation. Their competition is Google, Amazon, and Apple, because Apple right now is the leader of the mobile market. This is why Activision is being acquired by Microsoft, so they can compete with Apple. They don't care. about the console. They want a bigger chunk of the market, which is mobile phone. Arc needs people to go back and review it again because they have updated a crap ton, and on unofficial mod servers are super good. Yeah, but Arc is so. I mean, what is? Let's look at it. Right? Let's look at it. Arc. Arc survival player base. It's still pretty healthy. All-time peak 247,000. And in the last 10 minutes, last 24 hours, 64,000. That's pretty goddamn good. You know, considering it's how old? How old is this game? 2016, 2015, 2016. It was 2 years in it was 2 years in beta, wasn't? So it's still a pretty damn good a game. Now, I don't know what Conan is. I doubt Conan is anywhere near that. Not too shabby either. Conan's got 12,000, 20,000 in the last 24 hours. Not bad. That's not bad. I mean, that's crazy to me that game still has that big of a group. I mean, but if we go look at the best survival game that's out there, let's look at it. The best survival game numbers out there. Let's see. We don't have Steam numbers, but we do have. Why isn't this site ever work when I click on it? Yeah, Minecraft right now, players online as an hour ago. 1 million people. 1 million people. Active players in the last 30 days, 161 million. And peak viewers in the last 30 days, 300,000. Well, how does that work? Online players 1 hour ago is 968,000. Peak viewers 30-day. Peak viewer. Oh, viewers. Viewers. Never mind. That's crazy. Peak players in a day, 10 million. Get out of here. Minecraft is ridiculous. Ridiculous. So what came from the Xbox deal? I'm tired of hearing about it. What do you mean what came from it? It's not out yet. Today we might hear a ruling today, sometime today. Or sometime this week. You expect things to work the way you paid for it? Or how does that work? Yeah, what about that other game that the makers of Ark made? What was that called? Atlas? What was that game? The pirate one? Boy. World Atlas? Is that what it was called? That game was a cluster when it came out. Boy, was that a cluster. Came out, broke. Whole bunch of crap. That was an absolute travesty when that came out. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. Yeah, pun intended. Yeah. Yeah, it sank. Yeah, it sank. What's going on, Jesse Mack? What did Kylo say? Do true? I see the view mobile gaming in a different light compared to console and PC. I get it. Still, it makes money. Oh yeah. Well, there's also blurring lines, right? You see a lot more games like Genshin Impact that people play it on mobile all the time, and that I would compare to regular console games graphically and the way the systems work and whatnot. Black Desert Online, same type of thing. I mean, yeah, there's mobile games. Hell, we played Marvel Future Revolution, and that was a pretty goddamn good, mobile phone game. Up until that point, I didn't really play a lot of mobile phone games, but Marvel Future Revolution, we played for like a solid year. Wait, you love clusterfucks? You played Battlebits? How is this a clusterfuck? Travis, I truly believe you don't know a good game when you see it. Like you don't. What are we talking about today? We're talking about Epic versus Apple. Apple wants to bring Epic to Supreme Court. We're going to talk about Nintendo Switch rumor. We're going to talk about Battlebit is going to be the big thing. Next thing we're going to talk about is rumor. Nintendo Switch 2 console leaks at new feature. Nintendo Switch 2 rumor mill is working overtime, and the latest leak suggests the innovative new feature of new consoles and controllers. A leak for the next Nintendo console suggests that the controllers might have scroll wheels positioned near its trigger buttons. Nintendo has mostly kept the lips sealed regarding the inevitable Switch successor, dubbed as the Switch 2 by fans, but it's never maintained a best grip of those who leak in content. After 4 years of underperformance by the Wii U, Nintendo saw a resurgence in mainstream appeal with the Nintendo Switch, which has become the best-selling home console, the third best-selling game platform behind the only the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo's own DS. Given the Switch is 7 years old and several Switch games have struggled on the aging hardware, it's only inevitable that the successor of this is on its way. However, the details regarding the new console are sparse at best. The fans have also mostly had to rely on leaks and rumors to get rough estimates on what they could be for within the next couple of years. Now, the latest of so many Switch rumors come from a source of quite bizarre, even by leaker standards. A TSA agent who posted their findings anonymously discovered an unusual electronic device in a Pelican case, which triggered the metal detector, and the bags carrier insisted on private screening, during which the tech was revealed by quite large, almost resembling a Wi-Fi modem. It came with a mostly standard game controller, which appeared to be unfinished. While it still included several features and buttons that gamers have come to expect now, the most notable inclusion were the scrolling wheels positioned near the trigger buttons, akin to the one's computer or mouse. The main reason why the person felt the incident was notable enough was because the man who was traveling with the case had a business card providing that he held a job at Nintendo R&D department. The leaker didn't bother to speculate about the wheels, but he did go on to explain how the console side was almost on par with the Xbox One's, hitting a Nintendo's possible exit from the hybrid console business. Now, this comes in a contrast to most of those Switch 2 rumors, which suggests they'll just be beefier versions of what they have now. And the most comments appeared in the share the sentiment, including or assuming that the hardware was just a developer's kit and not the actual console itself. Now, Nintendo will know for introducing a fresh new concept to the world of video game hardware, being the first to introduce the shoulder buttons to analog triggers, and even designing entire consoles around features like motion controls, glass-free 3D, and dual screens, and portability. Now, while not every attempt was successful, there's no denying that Nintendo's ambitions is inevitable, and the rumor turns out to be true, then it would also be interesting to see how the scrolling wheels be affected gameplay moving forward. Now, there was also another rumor of this. It popped up on the, let me see if I could find it. I don't think I posted it this morning. There was also another thing where they posted, and it was called the NX2, or the NX, I think it was called, which underneath Nintendo, it said that the game was coming out for these platforms. And it said NX, I think it said NX2, which might be the prototype name of, what's it called, of the next Switch. That game is a clusterfuck that doesn't make it bad, but hell, I couldn't tell what you were doing most of the time other than getting shot. You understand, though, you understand the context of what you said when you said it. You said, wait, you love clusterfucks, you play Battlebits. In the context of when I was talking about stuff, you were saying, in the way you said it, sounds like you were talking shit about the game. Hence why I rebutted. Modmaker have kept Arc alive, man. They'll also continue to do so. Example, Arc Omega is a mod that adds new armor, items, and like 3,000 plus dinosaurs. So basically, Arc is like the Bethesda where the modding community keeps that game going. Why update the hardware where you can just add scroll wheels? I think it might be a completely brand new system. There's other rumors that say it's going to be like the PlayStation 4, Xbox One. So Xbox, remember, Nintendo doesn't have to compete on the same playing field as Xbox and PlayStation. They can literally stay one step behind them and still compete with them, which is just absurd. Nintendo didn't introduce analog. Did they say analog? I don't think they said analog in this, did they? Several Switch games have struggled. Modem, buttons, gamers. Except by now, the most notable inclusion was scroll wheels, position the trigger. Designing entire consoles around features like motion controls, glass-free 3D, dual screens, and portability. Nobody said analog. Nobody said analog controller. Did somebody in chat say analog? And nobody said that. You're just saying that yourself, Viking. Paul says, yeah, the NX2 is just about official at this point. Nintendo doesn't even need to do all of this with the controller, in my opinion. All they have to do is just upgrade the hardware every like 5 years in the same architecture, and it'll sell to the end. Yeah, but that's not the way Nintendo operates. Nintendo literally like angry Uncle Nintendo is crazy Uncle Nintendo. They can do whatever they want. And even if they bomb at a console like Wii U, they're literally still in the running. It's said to introduce the shoulder and analog. Let's see. Cards providing the thing. I don't remember reading analog and the shoulder. I remember reading the shoulder. I don't remember analog. Near the end, switch accessor, switch 2, never ran the grip in those. I don't remember reading that. See, electronic device, Pelican case, triggered metal detector. The carrier invested private screening during the tech reveal. Also, most resembling a Wi-Fi modem. Also came mostly standard for the controllers. It appeared to be unfinished. The scrolling wheel positioned the button on computer and mouse. Main reason the person felt the incident was notable. The leaker didn't also bother. Possible also hybrid console. The comments contract the most, which suggested the person comments appear to share the sentiment. Nintendo is also well known for introducing fresh new concepts to the world of video game hardware, being the first to introduce shoulder buttons and analog stick. I'm pretty sure the analog stick. I'll look it up right now. What do you think the first analog stick was, Viking? Analog thumbsticks. The NES Max, released in 1988, is the first instance of the thumb pad based on joystick controllers. So you would be 100% wrong. You would be 100% wrong. 1988 NES Max released a analog controller. Boom, facts. There you go. Good old facts. Stubby says, it's really strange to me that Switch gets the next-gen title sometimes, Mortal Kombat 1, for example, and they leave it behind old gen to pick up the Switch. Yeah, and it'll sell well. It'll sell well over there. Yeah, they're showing a GameCube. They are showing a GameCube controller in that picture, I believe. Technically, the real first analog stick was Chromico. Chromico launched in 1978, so it's as old as me. But I don't think it was actual analog because the Atari controller wasn't actually wasn't a analog controller because it had actual points where the analog is literally 360 degrees. The Macs didn't have analog. Are you gonna literally argue with the history of video games? I'm confused. Analog thumbsticks. The NES Max released in 1988 in the first instance of a thumb pad-based joystick controller. Quick Shot is another example of the early thumbstick controller available for the NES. And then, I don't understand. Obviously, Sony had theirs. But the analog thumbstick, literally, I don't understand. Thumb pad. It's still analog. Analog thumbstick controller called the XE1 AAP. In 1989 was Japanese, right? Nintendo had it first in 1988. 1989, Japanese made one for Sega Genesis. So even if I was wrong, and the history was wrong, right? After NES was Sega. So you would still be wrong. No, but the joystick wasn't analog. It wasn't analog. On July 5th, 1996, Sega released Nights into the Dream and also a Saturn console in Japan. Bundled with it was Saturn 3D controller pad, which featured an analog pad intended to give players more fluid controls over the game's flight-based gameplay. The analog pad used magnet-based Hall effect sensors. On April 25th, 1997, Sony introduced the world's first dual-stick controller for its game console, the PlayStation. I just hate Nintendo. And facts. You hate Nintendo and facts. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't need to argue. I'm literally reading the history of video games and what controllers were. And NES 1988 was the first analog controller. At least my stories are true. I mean, Atari basically had a joystick. Yeah, I used to love you know what my favorite part about the Atari controller was? Right? That you could take the actual stick off, like the cover, and use it as a suction cup, like a plunger. I used to love that as a kid. I just take it off and then just stick it on everything and just start playing with it. Fantastic. 30 facts are like ice. They're myth. That's right. I mean, look, I love having conversations, and I love. I'm not right about everything as well, but when you're looking up stuff and reading actual information, you still have an argument about it. Not an argument, a discussion about it. It's kind of funny. Just kind of funny. Wait a minute, you didn't know that, Dabstick? Yeah, if you could take off the black covering on the controller, right? I have, if you look at my logo, I have the Atari controller in my logo. Because that's my first console that I ever played on. Right? If you take that middle black piece off, you could use it as a suction cup. Yeah. It sticks to Sticks to everything. Fantastic. All right, we got a couple of these are going to take longer. This is going to be the remainder pretty much. We could talk about other things as well. So Nintendo was the first to use analog in gaming. Analog was a thing before 1988. Yes, Viking, which I read 1978. The Chromaco, whatever it was the first one. But it wasn't analog, just a joystick. The way the technology wasn't an analog. Like Atari had a controller, had a joystick, but it wasn't an analog. It was the way it was structured inside. I don't know the terminology, where it had little motion, like little points of interest inside there. It wasn't full 360 degrees. Yep, I'm arguing semantics. Sure. I bet the first joystick was back in the. Let's not overlook Mario 64 was maybe the best analog stick game of all time. You know what I hated? I hated the controller setup of the N64. I know a lot of people like it, right? I hated this part because I was a D-pad guy, right? I was a D-pad. I don't know why this is so goddamn blurry. Can we get a better picture? Walmart. This is a Walmart picture. Come on, dude. Like, you have a blurry picture of a... Right? Like, I hated... Like, when you held it like this, but then you would take your hand and put it... And, like, this whole section, the whole left side of the controller, okay, was useless. Okay? Was useless. Because you would hold it like this, right? You would hold it like normal, but then when you played N64, you had your analog and you were moving, but you held it in the thing, and it was weird because you would take your thumb off of it, and then you would have to stretch your thumb over to the D-pad because it was just so weird. I hated it. This is probably one of the worst designed controllers in the history of controllers. One of the worst. Interesting at the time. Okay, and then they had the thing at the bottom as well, is like jutted out. It's just weird. It's just weird. Now, here's another ugly as hell. Love the system. Okay, love the system. But this was another controller that was just an absolute mess. Okay. Dreamcast. Now, the positioning of the analog stick was great, but I hated the whole bulkiness of that storage facility in the center, which is groundbreaking back then because you could actually save, and take stuff with you. Like, but this was such a bulky. I have this somewhere. It's in storage. I still have my Dreamcast. Right? But this was also another just horrific design. Like, we take this, say what you want about Xbox, but their controller, like just the design of the controller, is just it's perfect. It's like what Apple didn't make the cell phone, but they made the cell phone better, right? And then it was like the effort of like all companies kind of made the same cell phone now. Xbox's controller is a really good controller. PlayStation, I wish was just a little... Now, maybe the PlayStation 5 this is a PlayStation 4 controller, so I haven't played with one yet. But when I hold it, I feel like it's just a little bit off. It feels more natural where your thumbs are on the analog on the left and the analog on the right. When you play on PlayStation, at least 4, I don't like that they're next to each other like this. It's fine, but I prefer the Xbox controller. The Xbox controller is the Dreamcast pad with an extra stick. It's not even close though. Yeah, I mean, obviously they're all, but like if you look at it, sure, this is over more though, right? Where they position this analog stick when you hold it, it just feels better. You see that? Do you see that? How this is like cut off, like right here. There's no extra. This actually needs to be out a couple of like centimeters. Give that more bulk because the analog stick is so close to the edge on the Dreamcast controller, it felt awkward to use or hold. Was the cable at the bottom? Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was another awful. What is the? You know what? I gotta look at the. What's the new PlayStation controller? I don't have one, so PlayStation 5 controller. Is it the same size, or is it a little bit bigger? Is it the same size as the PlayStation 4 controller? You got a size-by-size comparison, so it is a little bit bigger. It is a little bit bigger. Yeah, see? It bowled out a little bit more. I just feel like the PlayStation 4 is just a little too small. It looks like the PlayStation 5 is just a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier. Most comfortable control on the market. I haven't touched it, so I can't say. As of right now, I think the Xbox is just the way the size of it. Like when you put your hands on it, your thumbs just land on the sticks. The PlayStation, when I put like my natural thumb here, you can't really see it, but like when you put your thumbs on the controller, okay, see where my thumb goes, just like naturally, like when you put it on there. Maybe it's because I don't know. I just feel like it's natural. I don't know. When I get one, I'll let you know. When you get one, I know. But you could definitely see that the bulk of it is wider from top to bottom. And the batteries, nope. I mean, you can get rechargeable batteries. It's the same thing with the PlayStation controller, just a rechargeable battery in there, Rose. That's a weird criticism. Like I don't just a rechargeable battery you put in, and when you plug it in like you do your PlayStation controller, it's the same thing. You can get the device you use on the PlayStation controller on the Xbox. You can get the device to use a PlayStation controller on your Xbox. Why would I do that? My Xbox comes with a controller. I guess if my controller breaks, I could pick up a PlayStation, but why would I do that? I don't know if I could do that. Like I'm a person that can't drink like a if you go to McDonald's and like grab and your friend wants to go to like Wendy's, I won't eat my McDonald's and the Wendy's. You know what I mean? Because the PlayStation 5 controller is nice. Sure, for you. I just said I like the setup of the Xbox controller. It just feels better for me. Again, I don't own a PlayStation 5, so I don't know the controller. You'll eat it in the car? I'll eat it before we go to the other place. I won't do it. I won't do it. I think it's and each their own. But I will not Like if we all my wife does this, right? She's like, well, I want like this, and someone wants that. I will not go eat inside their restaurant. Just won't do it. Like, yeah, but we're getting stuff in there. I said, yeah, but I didn't buy stuff in there. Can you imagine going to a sit down restaurant and like bringing McDonald's or something, and while the rest of your family is ordering from the server, you're eating McDonald's inside the restaurant? Fuck that. I'm not doing that shit. What kind of crazy person are you? Who doesn't eat in the car? We don't eat in our car. We keep our car spotless. Rule number one: we don't, unless we're on like a road trip or something. Then obviously to rent a car, but we don't eat in our car. Hell no. 8-year-old in a car with food? That's a disaster. That's a disaster. Right? You'll find crumbs and barbecue sauce, fucking Coke spillage everywhere. Forget that. Do yourself a favor. If you have kids, don't let them eat in the car. Let them starve till they get to the location. Yeah. No kids in the car with food. You know what disaster is? You know what disaster is? A bag of chips where they reach in the car and they're like, just chips go everywhere. You're never getting that out. That's in the car till you get rid of it. And you try to vacuum it, you're never going to find it. Never. Never. Never going to do it. You're asking for just... As a father, other dads have to agree with this, right? You don't let your children do something because you know you're going to have to clean it up afterwards. Depending on what it is, obviously. If they want to paint or something like that, it's fine. Have fun. But like food, you're like, the hell was that? The hell just fell? Okay, that's weird. I have a I have a thing on the back of my desk, which is like a Bluetooth speaker. That's on a shelf. It's sitting on a shelf. Okay, and then all of a sudden, it fell off the shelf. Shelf was fine. It just literally fell off the shelf. Like, what? Eddie Rodriguez says glitter drives me nuts. Oh my god. Do you know Eddie? Do you ever watch my son watches Mark Rober? He does the glitter bombs for uh the people that steal gifts on Christmas time. Okay. When he shows the glitter going, and these are criminals, right? And I'm like, good. That glitter's in their house forever. Like, I hate glitter. I hate glitter so much that when my wife puts on stuff and she has glitter, I'm like, don't touch me. Like, don't touch me. Because that stuff is everywhere. Everywhere. I find it months and years later. Like, I get anxiety when I see the glitter just shoot her. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, that's... Forget about it. My wife won't let me eat in the car. Does she eat in the car? Does your kid eat in the car? Won't let you eat in the car? Yeah, it's crazy. Definitely don't eat in the car. All right. Segway 472. All right. I don't know if I want to watch the 7 years in the making for Battlebit Masters. Okay. Or the comparing of Battlebit Masters first. What do you guys want to watch first? The comparison of people calling out Battlefield to compare to Battle Masters or Battlebit Masters or remasters, sorry. Or should we watch the history of Battlebit Masters? I think I'm gonna let's watch the history. Let's watch the history of it first. All right. So this game everyone knows it right now as a really popular independent game made by 3 people. But it's not an overnight success. Okay? It's not an overnight success. It's been worked on for 7 years. Okay, so here we go.
Server chronicling his day-to-day routine in Unity, designing maps for a small Eastern European town intended to be included in an upcoming FPS game he was making called Battlebit. Velasquez, a level designer, and Sergeant Okie Dokie, a developer, had been working together on making their version of a multiplayer FPS game with graphics that resembled Minecraft or Roblox, but gameplay that would actually be heavily influenced by milsim games like Squad, as well as more arcadey games like Battlefield, which unfortunately both of them could not play themselves due to having horrible laptops. The initial idea was to create their own low-poly FPS game intended to be accessible to everyone no matter their computer specs. This would be a teamwork-oriented game that had some arcadey elements like kill confirmation messages and an on-demand weapon modification system, but also provided
I said yesterday that they're like pop-ups and stuff that happen, like take A, take B, and all the words. They don't fit in the game. I feel like this fits more in the game, maybe too cartoony for this, but it's weird now inside Battlebit. It almost looks like a Battlefield, like ripoff. It just took Battlefield's like overlay type stuff. I feel like this fits the bill more.
Some moments with very detailed animations and even shell-shock mechanics when the player was hit by explosions. The 2-man team were hard at work, posting gameplay and development updates all while in school and studying. After roughly a year of development, however, a decision was made to overhaul the game in preparation for a paid Patreon and Steam beta run, deciding to rename their growing project Battlebit Remastered to differentiate it from their older builds. By late 2017, Battlebit Remastered was ready for its Steam testing phase, and the team released a trailer that more closely resembled a low-poly Call of Duty.
I remember this trailer. Now. 2017 is when they released Remastered. Wow. Okay.
Cutscene. It was very dramatic, very serious, and very blocky. Early access release was just months away, weapon and character movement animations were beginning to come together nicely in the remaster, and there also was a showcase of all the extremely detailed and varied maps that players would be able to experience. With the hype rising, however, the official release dates were scrapped, and instead Sergeant Okie Dokie emphasized that during development, they just weren't getting done what they wanted to. They wanted to take time to make the game the best it could be, and frankly, the timeline they had given originally just wasn't going to allow that to happen. Despite no firm date on its release anymore, every week it seemed like Battlebit was becoming to look much more like the real deal. And for only $15, you could support the project on Patreon and secure a key for you and 3 of your friends upon its release. By early 2018, an announcement was made.
Actually, really smart. Pay $15, get 3. You get you and 3 of your friends for the price of $15 on Patreon. And then you spread the word. Smart.
That over 4,000 new keys would become available as demand for closed testing was exploding. Full weapon customization, destructible environments, 128 player games, vehicles, and even weather effects like volumetric fog were already confirmed. Despite its very simple graphics, Battlebit was becoming a very real and very in-depth game, and the playable beta officially dropped in February 2018.
Dude, look at this. You got iron sights and a zoom lens. Or a scope by just swapping like that. That's fantastic.
This would be one of the most challenging periods in Battlebit's history as the devs learned that their game really didn't play very well. In an announcement on March 3rd, 2018, Sergeant
It's like $3 a person, Stubby. Right? $3 a person.
Dokie said that over the 8 months of straight development of Battlebit Remastered, on top of the already 1.5 years of development for the original Battlebit, the end result was, well,
Dabstick says, I just don't get why people get out of killing each other over and over. What do you get out? And I'm not criticizing you, Dabstick, because I play Minecraft and a lot of other survival game type stuff. What do you get the satisfaction of digging a hole over and over? Do you know what I mean? Sure. If you break down a game to its bare bones, it doesn't sound appealing. You know what I mean?
Well, horrible. There were FPS drops and server issues, but even when those were fixed, despite the massive hype from the community and those supporting them, the end result was just really not fun. The gameplay was just boring, nobody was sticking around, and they came to this scary conclusion. The low poly graphics combined with the milsim gameplay they were pushing just weren't matching. And in an incredibly raw post by Sergeant Okidoki, unfortunately it seemed as if the hardcore people just did not want to play blocky, low poly games. The people who showed up to play Battlebit were usually casual players, which resulted in confusion on the gameplay mechanics and a gameplay loop that for the average person just wasn't clicking. Weapons handled pretty realistically and the Conquest game mode was relatable, but the pacing just didn't fit. There was a medical system with bleeding and bandaging, and you could even drag around wounded soldiers and revive them.
That's exactly what it is, Paul.
Way too slow and way too hardcore. And unfortunately, by embracing the milsim games that the devs loved, they ended up with a game that nobody else liked. For 2 years, these devs had poured their life into a game that had fallen completely flat, and there was going to be a lot of work to do to save it. The game was shifted from a hardcore teamwork-oriented one to something that had a much more casual gameplay loop, more akin to Call of Duty or Battlefield.
Okay, you see the pivot they did? They tried to make the game more like Squad, right? It was more like Squad, where military sim, but with the crappy graphics, and it wasn't selling. It wasn't pushing. People weren't really digging it, right? It wasn't working. Then they pivoted. And they said, let's make it more team-based, okay, and make it more like Battlefield.
The gameplay would be faster, you'd have less downtime, and an average life would be 2 to 3 minutes max before you'd respawn. They shifted their target demographic from the older 30 to 40-year-old milsimmers to the shorter attention span 18 to 25-year-old gamers. Gameplay was completely gutted, and a new game mode was created to embrace this new faster playstyle, which many people may recognize as similar to Rush from Battlefield. Even new character animations were created to make the game flow better, with Sergeant Okidoki showcasing his thought process by throwing up a camera in his living room in order to record the exact type of movement he was after. And despite the focus being on arcadey gameplay, that didn't mean that some of the more hardcore or realistic features would have to be completely removed. Accurate reloading animations were designed, including unique ones while the player ADS'd, optics were magnified to maintain realism, and even unique sounds for specific surfaces were implemented. But as these features were added, a common complaint during their closed, smaller playtests was performance. With destructible environments, realistic details, and now fast-paced action, the devs still were trying to make a game that could be played on almost any machine. To address this, Sergeant Okidoki began working on a solution and even released a video of their low-end PC optimization process, showing how he's now coded the game to provide everyone the same visual experience of firing their rifle no matter their FPS. Previously, full auto firing would cause
Correct, Viking. They made the game not only game with fun in mind, they made the game by listening to the actual people that wanted a game like this, right? Battlefield lost its way. Like, Bad Company 2, to me, was the last time Battlefield was Battlefield. They kind of started switching it more. Battlefield 3 was a good game. Battlefield 4 was a good game. Hardline was the worst game they've created. Worse than 2042, in my opinion, right? But they've lost the identity of what Battlefield is. These guys have now found what Battlefield was, and they've captured it in the voxel type of game.
Extremely frustrating frame drops, and the players would appear to fire only every other round. It was very disorienting and just didn't look good, but through development they separated the fire rate from the FPS, making it smooth regardless of whether you had 30 FPS or 300. Further accessibility was achieved through a complete keybind and controller overhaul.
Oh, I figured out. I got the controller to work last night. So I'm going to try it again tonight with the controller instead.
Players full customization on how they chose to play the game, a step which even many AAA games released nowadays often miss or get completely wrong. By the end of 2019, Sergeant Okidoki made it clear through another sarcastic post that it could be until the year 2077 until Battlebit launched, meaning that he wanted to take his time and make the game right. It had only been a year since the abysmal first playtest of Battlebit Remastered, and a second failure so soon would most likely cause many supporters to lose faith in the project as a whole. With only themselves to determine when the game would actually be ready, the devs behind Battlebit had what many AAA studios didn't. They had time. They had been able to have wildly shifting timelines for development checkpoints, they had completely scrapped some sections of the project while completely remaking others, and for the most part, despite having a Patreon and closed testers, they'd been able to endlessly work on this with almost zero expectation of a hard date for it to be finished. Unlike the typical white text, black background delay and apology posts we've all become familiar with, as well as constant day one
Wait a minute. Can I do that to my scope in the game? Can I do that? Where make it all black and just show me where the guy is?
patches for incredibly broken $60, $70, or even $100 releases from AAA studios, Battlebit Remastered was on a mission to release a fully functional and fully fun game. This reliance on themselves and not a full studio would ironically be more beneficial in 2020 during the COVID pandemic, as Sergeant Okie Dokie and the team would continue to pump out more updates while also...
It's a middle finger and the okay. Now, if Call of Duty put that in the game, I would pay $1. I would pay $1 for that.
Taking some time to blow off steam as the world around them was going crazy. More destruction was implemented and development to increase the player count was going strong, with up to 145 players now able to be in one server, breaking their original promise of 128 player games and eventually bumping up their server capacity to 254 players. The gameplay itself was becoming...
Okay. I'm gonna pause a lot and talk because I'm very passionate about Battlefield, right? I'm very passionate about like just FPS games like this when I was playing growing up. Okay, SOCOM, MAG, Call of Duty, Battlefield, you name it, I played it, right? I absolutely loved it. What they're doing here, okay, by putting the 127 versus 127, they're literally capturing. We always said we want more people on the maps in Battlefield 1942, right? And then they gave us Vietnam, and they gave us Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, and they always kept it to 64, right? Now, there's 127 per side. Yeah, the game is not as beautiful looking as Call of Duty, but the sheer amount of chaos that happens on here and the coordination, like if I really got into a group last night, there was people talking and squads talking to each other like hell let loose, trying to organize. And you could see the games that we were in that we won. We only won 2. But then you can see the other games that we lost against the other teams that were just destroying us because they were moving as one coherent team. You could tell, okay? The fact that they're doing mag numbers, okay, in each of the games, they're doing fully destructible environment, they're doing weather effects, they're doing all of this stuff in a lower tier thing. It's not about the game just being a Battlefield clone or a squad clone. It's the whole package. It's the price point. With the graphics to me, I'll be honest, last night after about an hour, I didn't even look at the graphics anymore. I didn't care about the graphics to begin with. The game is just pure, utterly fun, which is something that EA has completely forgot about when they've created their game. And the amount of detail and the leveling system and the unlock system, what you get for each of the weapons and each of the characters in this game is insane. The amount of stuff that you get for this game for $15 is 10 times more than what you get for $70 now for a game that was broken buggy for 18 months. Now, I'm not saying this game wasn't broke or buggy. Obviously, it's still in beta. But it's a hell of a lot. The ground floor here is much better than the ground floor of a $60, $70 AAA title.
Coming much more in line with something resembling a Battlefield game, and players would be running around killing, dying, and respawning at a higher, more enjoyable pace than ever before. Still, even with all of the success of the new gunplay and gameplay loop, Sergeant Okie Dokie never lost track of the details, spending countless hours on incredibly in-depth and immersive features, like how tank tracks would physically interact with the world, or how a Humvee would actually feel while traversing difficult terrain.
The driving
while
felt
gunplay
really good.
and immersion was coming together, Velasquez was hard at work designing environments that would be both fun and provide balanced gameplay. Although there were many updates to the visual.
Here's another thing. Map design. We played, I think, 6 matches yesterday, right? We played 6 matches. We played 2. We've only played 4 maps, though. We played 2 of the same maps because it's voted on, right? The map design for 3 guys, there's a whole team that makes map designs. Battlefield 2042 literally took 3 years to make the game and took another 18 months to fix the 8 maps they put in the game. Like, what are we talking about here?
Visuals when you actually played the game, it didn't really matter how good everything looked if the players hated the world they were playing in. This meant in-depth study of player heat maps and careful distancing of objectives so players would never feel like one side was more beneficial than the other. A process which he described as mirroring was implemented to make the objectives feel different no matter where you were, but the map played the same to allow for a roughly 50% win rate no matter what side you started on. Eventually, by the end of 2021, and almost 4 full years since the announcement that they would be scrapping the hardcore gameplay and moving towards a more casual experience, Battlebit Remastered was about to have their very first open playtest. Although hundreds of paid Patreon supporters had joined in closed testing over the years,
it just came out basically at the end of last year.
An open beta on Steam was going to be a completely different beast, and it's moments like these that can make or break games. A failed playtest 4 years ago, followed by another failed playtest after they tried reworking the game, would surely be the end of Battlebit as they knew it. To ensure the game's success, Larry officially joined the dev team as a 3D artist, and the now 3-man dev team began preparing for the public playtesting. On December 26, 2021, the first week-long playtest
2021. Oh, December 26, 2021. Okay.
Test kicked off, and to much of the relief of the team, it was incredibly well received. So much so that by the third weekly playtest, the player base had ballooned to over 115,000.
Well, it's good timing, I'll be honest with you, because they came out at December 2021, which is 2 months after the clusterfuck known as Battlefield 2042 came out and was just a disaster area.
Beta downloads on Steam and over 2,000 concurrent players. And as a result of the testing, the devs decided to reduce the price of the game. On January 19, 2020,
that right there shows you that they're not in it for the money. Obviously, they're doing something and making money, but to see that the growth of your game while you're doing a play test of 100,000 plus people playing, and then they lowered the price for people to come in, shows that there's no battle pass, right? There's no season pass. There's nothing like that. They literally lowered the price. We've decided to change our base price to 15, new price, from 20, old price, for early access. Patreon is still $10.
The early access price was lowered from $20 to $15 in order to make sure more people around the world could actually purchase.
What did you say, Davstick? With the hype of this game right now, give it a month, man, and you'll see a battle pass and a paywall map and skins. Greed always wins. I know you said you take it back. Did you look inside the game and see when you level up for your prestige what you get? All the cosmetics that you get in the game, skins that you get in the game. Yeah, they sell a skin pack for DLC, right? Which I have no problem with. Doesn't do anything to the game. But everything that you unlock in the game, so if you see a guy running around with a red weapon, that means he prestiged 3 times and he killed 3,000 whatever guys with that gun.
And they even reiterated that this may be lowered further upon early access release in order to compensate for regional pricing differences. This is a decision not commonly seen in the history of gaming development, as developers typically try to capitalize on successes with higher price tags. The Battlebit devs, on the other hand, once being gamers with crappy laptops themselves, were obviously wanting to make sure their game could be accessible to everyone, even if it ate a little bit into their profit.
Just hearing that, I mean, I paid my $15, but if they come out with something else, I would support them. I would support them because you can tell right now anyway. But remember, Activision, EA, they all started with just 2, 3, 5, 10 guys in a theater, in a studio making a game because they were passionate, and then they got bought up and conglomerates happened, and then they became the hated companies of the business. So those all started the same way. Small, independent, and they loved what they did. And then they became conglomerate companies. As of right now, these are just 3 guys, 2 mostly, guys that made majority of the game, and now they brought in guy Larry about 1.5 years ago.
The next couple months would be full of Patreon supporter playtests, attempting to fix bugs and get the game to a state ready for the now planned 2022 early access launch on Steam. But the sheer popularity of Battlebit was actually now causing issues of scaling. A massive population
Yeah, the new map got its post on thing. It's broke or something, so they're fixing it.
Playing their game meant that players would want to play a wide variety of content. The modern gamer needed progression and a variety of weapons to keep them interested, and they would most likely want to play multiple game modes if they got bored, and not just the crazy chaos that the devs have been focused on with the giant 254 player battles. The player base is now worldwide, meaning that 1 or 2 servers for an entire region would simply not be enough. The team needed all of this content, as well as localized servers for the international player base, and plenty of DDoS protection and anti-cheat. This was going to be expensive, and Sergeant Okidoki disclosed that despite Patreon making them nearly $10,000 a month, he was actually only taking home $500 of it to live off of, while everything else went straight back into the project. Nearly five.
That's what business is, man. That's what business is. You don't become Elon Musk overnight, right? You take the money and you invest it back in.
$1,000 each month were used for just the weekend playtest servers alone, with everything else being saved in order to get the game into early access. With its current popularity, Battlebit Remastered was estimated to cost them $50,000 each month. But once they officially transitioned to Steam Early Access, the Steam platform would actually hold all funds for a minimum of 1 month and a maximum of 2 months, as they would no longer be able to make money on Patreon. The funds would be held before paying out to the developers, meaning that the dev team would have to somehow...
Dabstick, we don't talk about stuff like that in here. We want to talk about real world current events and stuff like that as far as political stuff. Go somewhere else to talk about that stuff.
Now fundraise over $100,000 on Patreon beforehand as a safety measure, in hopes that they wouldn't need anything else to keep the game running for the couple months waiting for their pay. With the funds being tight and the need to continually develop more content, the team decided to push back early access to sometime in 2023. Large and small scale game modes had to be finished, weapons needed balancing, there were plenty of bugs to squash, and one of the largest features that they wanted to add, helicopters, were still needing a lot of work. Given this new timeline,
the helicopter we just rode in a couple times. It seemed pretty solid.
Content like new weapons were also added. Quality of life features like a visual experience point log were developed, progression systems for camo and grindable attachments were implemented, and the game was truly becoming to...
Now look at this. You unlock stuff just like the other games. There's nothing hidden behind a paywall or anything like that, right? You get 10 kills, you unlock that. You get 40 kills with the gun, you get that. You get 120, 160, 300, 640, right? It just keeps going. It's awesome.
Feel like a low poly Battlefield competitor. But even with all of these major developments, interesting and immersive mechanics that stayed true to the game's milsim roots were still being added, such as underhand grenade throwing and combining weapon magazines. These impressive content updates followed by
Wait a minute, you can combine weapon magazines?
And public playtesting would continue for another year until May 20th, 2023. It was then that Sergeant Okidoki announced that after 7 years of development, Battlebit Remastered was finally releasing into Steam Early Access in June 2023. The game had also been selected as one of the games to watch and would be showcased at DreamHack Dallas on June 2nd, and on June 9th they would be conducting the final playtest. The popularity of this game exploded, and to put it into perspective, the original final playtest trailer received 47,000 views on YouTube, while the following official release date trailer got over 200,000 views.
So the release of the early access was about a month ago, not even 3 weeks ago.
It had been a long time coming, but Battlebit was not going back to the drawing board. There would be no more closed playtests, there would be no more delays, and on June 15th, the game would officially be released into early access on Steam. In this announcement, to add even more hype to the game, the devs also announced that there would be more content. One more new map named Tinseltown, as well as 5 brand new weapons, all were going to drop at launch. In true Battlebit fashion, content was seemingly spilling out of the game left and right. At launch, the game smashed expectations with over 25,000 concurrent players, and surprisingly enough, the devs once again decided to reduce the
Think about the insanity of this. They lowered the cost of it again. Regional pricing update.
Game's price, resulting in
Hold on, I'm gonna back up for a second.
Some locations expectations with over 25,000 concurrent players, and surprisingly enough, the devs once again decided to reduce the game's price, resulting in some locations being able to purchase it for up to 20% off the original listing price. To counteract the price changes, they also released a supporter pack available for purchase if you wish to support the dev team further. Although there were a few rough patches with server stability, by and large it launched without much of an issue, and the world was surprised at just how fun and deep a low poly game could be. This wasn't your kid brother's Roblox game, and
because it's not about the graphics. When are people going to understand that gaming is not about the graphics? It's about the pure enjoyment you have when you play a game.
features that FPS players might have only seen in games like Escape from Tarkov, Squad, Arma, or Battlefield were everywhere. A real and fleshed out class system and squad system promoted team play, vehicles were fun, customization was never ending, and the gunplay just felt good. Creators from all backgrounds
The gunplay feels phenomenal. It feels great.
were singing the game's praises, with even OG Battlefield fans like Jack Frags or the more hardcore tactical milsimmers like
That's where I found out about it. Jack Frags. I watched Jack Frags. I've been watching him for, God, I don't even know how long. It got to be over 8 years, 9 years.
Operator Drewski amazed and addicted. The years spent on detailing the weapons and attachments even warranted an exclusive GameSpot video with the keeper of firearms and artillery at the Royal Armories, Jonathan Ferguson, who was so surprised by both the modeling and the animations of the weapons that he stated Battlebit is doing a better job than a lot of mainstream AAA games have.
The guy said it has better weapons in this game than the other guys
done historically. Within the first week, Battlebit Remastered had launched itself to become the #1 game on Steam, and 10 days after launch, its player count had peaked at over 86,000 concurrent players, landing it firmly in the top 10 most played games on Steam. With over 30,000 very positive reviews, this labor of love game has absolutely nailed it on its first real try into public early access, and the devs have no intention of stopping. There have already been a slew of quality of life updates like bleed out timers for medics, an option to show level progression on your screen, and even a viewable squad list on your HUD. Graphic updates were implemented to increase interior visibility through the use of a new shader system, and another new map has already been released. The core gameplay loop allows players to enjoy large-scale game modes as well as the less chaotic and more tactical smaller-scale ones. And with 200 ranks plus an impressive prestige system, there is plenty of reason to grind the game. Despite the graphics looking cheap, the amount of detail included in the game doesn't make it feel cheap at all. And ignoring the actual low polyness, everything responds and feels and plays like you would think it would do in the real world. Additionally, the roadmap on the way to full release has stated that there will be continued quality of life updates, new vehicles, new game modes and gadgets, and even a milsim mode. So perhaps the very first iteration of Battlebit from way back in 2017 may get a second chance. In an industry that has been notoriously bad at releasing buggy, broken games, penny pinching, and borderline lying to customers, and implementing greedy monetization methods that lock critical gameplay experiences behind paid season passes or battle passes, Battlebit Remastered and the dev team behind it is an amazing breath of fresh air. Not only have they been able to provide a fully functional product when many early access games appear to be cash grabs at times in order to secure future funding, they've also been true to their word in trying to make this game as accessible as possible in both PC requirements and price. Sergeant Okidoki has successfully led development of a project that at one point was so badly received it stalled its early access release for over 4 years. But instead of abandoning it, or maybe worse, pushing through a release that nobody really wanted to play, he took that knowledge and then improved and iterated on the game in order to make it much more appealing. Because of that, we now have the Battlebit Remaster that is absolutely taking the FPS world by storm. Although they may just be a small team, Sergeant Okidoki, Velasquez, and Larry are doing things that AAA studios can only dream about. And Battlebit Remastered should be a testament to their dedication to making fun and engaging games, no matter how long it might have taken. I hope you enjoyed the story of how Battlebit Remastered came to be.
That's cool. That's cool. We'll give a like to this. Let me go take this dude's name and put it in the check out the Go. We have another one, which is Big Fry TV. He says Battlebit Remastered has to wake up call for Battlefield, right? He makes some. I only watched the very first couple seconds or minute, so let's listen to what he has to say.
Saying for the past couple of weeks that Battlebit is taking on the AAA space with their release, but the numbers that Battlebit are hitting right now have got to be a wake-up call to DICE, right? Like, right? I think back to the statement in 2014. 2014, that's how long we have been talking about the downfall of Battlefield, but
that's about right. About right.
Back in 2014, the boss of DICE, Carl Magnus Charlson, I hope I pronounced that right, he asked, like, what is it that people really liked about Bad Company? It was in a Eurogamer article, and it was in relation.
I loved everything about Bad Company. Bad Company had story, great maps, great system, just like just a fun play game. You know what I mean? Like, had the class systems, just a fantastic game. Gunplay, the squads, the game modes, the maps.
To them working currently on Hardline, one of the worst
game
Battlefield titles of all time. Maybe a little bit less than 2042. DICE, listen up. Battlebit just showed the world, and I'm hoping they showed you too, that we want class-based gameplay.
Preach.
Get rid of specialists. Deep unlock progression for weapons and character customization. A ton of large-scale maps with destructible elements. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, it does. It sounds exactly like Battlefield used to be.
Back in 2014, Carl was saying that some people said they found the multiplayer controls faster and more direct in regards to Bad Company. Some people liked the single player and the characters and the humor. People love different things about it. It's starting to almost get to a place where if we were to make a sequel to Bad Company, what would that even imply? Guys, we just want a fun game. Like, first and foremost, we want a fun game that replicates the Battlefield formula that we fell in.
No, but Viking, it is a bad game because it wasn't a Battlefield game. You see what I'm saying?
Love with. And that formula is almost exactly what Battlebit is giving right now. Battlebit is the product of passion, and the amount of comments that I've seen that say Battlebit reminds them that multiplayer FPS can be fun is astounding, yet it's sad at the same time.
It is.
Battlebit is...
Yes, it is. It is amazing and sad at the same time.
Currently scratching an itch that DICE has left for almost a decade now. And that's not to say that this is a Battlefield clone. It takes elements from Battlefield, it takes elements from Squad, and they're doing their own thing, but there's enough overlap to bring over the Battlefield crowd, and it clearly has. Now, in comparison, we do know that Battlebit was only $15, and they also have the supporter pack, which costs more, and you get a bunch of skins for it. I'm not sure how many copies of that they've sold. Actually, if you guys bought the supporter pack, let me know down below. But regardless, the fact that Battlebit is pushing 100,000 concurrent players in the indie space is fucking wild. And everybody is watching and cheering them on and championing a development team of 3 people doing it better than the AAA space. And there's gotta be a statement about that. Like, if DICE isn't looking over this game and the movement and the...
What this is like a movie, like The Joker, right? The movie The Joker. Smaller production. $50 million budget. And it broke $1 billion. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't need a $200, $250, $300 million film to make $1 billion, right? Even if we go further back to, what was that movie? My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I think it cost $5 million. Not even. I don't even think it cost I forget what. Don't quote me on that, but it was less. It was way less, and it made a crap ton of money, right? Based on a really small budget. If people make a good thing, people will watch it. People will spend money on it. Yes, the graphics are not the greatest, but the gameplay is so much fun. So much fun.
Statement that's being made around this title with a magnifying glass, then they're completely out of their element now. If you're not looking over the fence and seeing what Battlebit is doing to capture people's attention, then why are you even in the space? And I'm not even trying to sit here and pit Battlebit against Battlefield, but the conversation has to take place. When so many people are comparing this to Battlefield and saying that, like, this is what they've wanted from a title from DICE for a decade plus, we've got a fucking problem. And as much as I am...
That's right. We do have a fucking problem. There's a fucking problem in the industry because they keep expanding. This is what we talked about a couple weeks ago with the developer came out and said that AAA games are getting too big. They're getting too big because they're getting too expensive. And they're going to hit a wall. They're running full speed at a wall. This is not me talking about that. This is the actual dev that was talking about it in the industry. And I forget what company he worked for. But he said that they're running into a wall because their budgets are getting so miraculously big because of the graphics, because of all the stuff that they're doing, and they can't keep up with it. You're going to hit a ceiling. What this has done is this is kind of done a gear check, per se, in a looter, right? This is a gear check. Like, you look at this as a gamer and you play Battlefield and you're like, holy Christ, like, I like Battlefield. I love Battlefield. Okay. Battlefield 2042, I'm enjoying it, right? It's beautiful. It's a beautiful game, but it's missing what it was. And now I'm playing a $15 game. Okay. A $15 voxel game. And I'm having more fun. I only played 5 hours, almost 6 hours yesterday. Okay. I'm having more fun in that game because of what the basis of that game is. The ground level of that game is what Battlefield used to be. And Battlefield has lost its way. The people making the game don't know what they're doing in the fact of they're trying to compete. Now, Robert Jones says, question, do we think that it will be a flash in the pan here or a short time and everyone will move on? I think that this game might be a flash in the pan, but I think it will get a player base where people start to wake up a little bit with these first-person shooter games like a Battlefield, like a Call of Duty, and see what this game is doing with 3 people, okay? I think you're going to get a lot of clones with this as well, just like you did with Minecraft back in the day. When Minecraft started getting popular, there was other voxel games that came out that just did the same thing. I think we're going to get 100% going to get clones to try to take away from what this is doing. But I think Battlebit Remastered, because of what it's doing, the foundation that they've built the game on will succeed over the other games that have come out. Unless the other games actually give a shit and they actually compete with them by doing exactly what they're doing to make it fun, not just visually going, because this is the way the execs look at it. They're like, well, we're spending $250 million on this game, and look at the graphics. How is this little shit game going to beat us? Well, I get it. People don't want good graphics anymore. We'll do shitty graphics. No, that's not what we're saying. We'll take degraded graphics if it means that the game fundamentally, like, obviously, I don't think you want a God of War in a voxel-based type of game like Battlebit Remastered, right? Just doesn't go with that. Battlefield, this shows that people are not playing Battlefield because there's tornadoes and the graphics are superior. That's not why they're playing Battlefield. They're playing Battlefield because squad-based gunplay, fun with your friends, and just have a good time. And that's not what's happening in Battlefield right now.
I'm a fan of what they've been able to do with 2042 given some time. It's clear to me that that game is never going to have the triumphant return that DICE is hoping for. And I'm hoping that they're going all in on the next one. And if they're still struggling to figure out what makes Battlefield good, look at Battlebit. We want large-scale maps, whether it's 64 v 64, 32 v 32. We want that with a higher visual fidelity, character customization, not specialist, but class-based gameplay. And this here shows that people work as a unit when you give them the tools to do so. Things like voice over IP.
Imagine that. Imagine.
With local chat.
It does have controller support, Brain. I haven't played with it yet. I tried it out a little bit last night in the training grounds after I got off stream. You have to go through a couple steps to get it to work, but I got my controller to work. It works with all controllers. You can put a Switch controller if you wanted to use your Switch controller. But there's ways to get your controller to work with it. So I'm gonna use it tonight. I gotta get used to what the setup is for the actual controller, but I got it working.
Chat, squad chat, and squad leader chat. When you give people the medic role to choose from, they choose it and they do it very well. Engineers, the same thing. Recon, the same thing. Give us the tools to be deadly on the battlefield as a unit. Specialists aren't on the same
Which quote, Stubby? Which quote? Because you're probably behind a little bit. I think for me and Fate were having fun last night. Fate Walker jumped in with me last night and we played. And then we got in with a bunch of his friends. People will work together if you give the tools. Yes.
level.
Let me rewind a little bit here.
People the medic role to choose from, they choose it and they do it very well. Engineers the same thing, recon the same thing. Give us the tools to be deadly on the battlefield as a unit. Specialists aren't on the same level as class-based gameplay for the Battlefield formula, and this is just tried and true. Battlebit is growing day over day, and they're pushing 100,000 players. 2042 is
when you snipe in this game, it feels good. It feels good. They have that headshot when you hit it just feels good.
struggling to get over 20,000 concurrent players. There is clearly a divide. We can take the price out of it. Most people are willing to pay more money if the experience is good. And at this point, I paid for the supporter pack. I backed them on Patreon a long time ago. I gave up my money to make sure that this game came to fruition. And I know there's a lot of other people that are willing to literally throw their wallets at you if you provide them with a good experience. And that is what DICE needs to take from this. If every employee of DICE working on the next Battlefield title isn't playing BattleBit right now and trying to figure out why this game is taking over the space, then you guys are mistaken. And
Exactly. It's exactly right. If the developers right now at EA, DICE, are not playing this game right now to figure out what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, they're idiots.
strongly urge, if anybody is watching this from DICE, there is a formula being put on display here that you guys haven't been able to touch in many, many years. And my intention isn't to draw a divide or put a wedge between Battlefield and BattleBit. My intention is to bridge the gap to get us back to getting more experiences like this from different dev teams, specifically from the dev team that orchestrated and facilitated the experience in the first place. I want BattleBit to champion DICE to make a good Battlefield game at launch when the next one comes around. And I think it might do it.
Here's what I'll take from this, right? Here's what I'll take from this. We're going to watch one more video. We're going to finish this, but then we're going to watch one more video. Battlefield has no competition because Call of Duty is not its competition. Battlefield's chasing Call of Duty, and they're never going to catch Call of Duty because Call of Duty isn't. It's not the same. People that think Call of Duty and Battlefield are the same, it's like an apple and orange. Okay, yes, they're both fruit. Okay, they're both FPS shooters, but they're not the same type of game, right? I've been saying this for years and years and years. They're not the same type of game. This game right now, with its shitty graphics, okay, which for me it doesn't matter, but the gameplay is phenomenal, is now competing in the PC space anyway with Battlefield. If Battlefield doesn't wake up from this and go, holy Christ, look at these guys. Battlefield doesn't know what it wants to be. Battlefield has lost its identity, and it's shifted where it's trying to chase Call of Duty. It's trying to be like an Overwatch with the specialty classes and whatnot. Just go back to the basics, Battlefield. DICE, just go back to the basics. Look at what these guys are doing with this game, and you can make the same type of game with beautiful graphics and just go back to the exact same thing you were doing in the past. Before you went big time, okay? Before you went big time, Battlefield 1942 back in the day was phenomenal. And this is exactly what that is back in the day. In 2002, 2003, when Battlefield 1942 came out, that's where this game is right now.
If they don't have their heads in their asses. Let me know what you guys think down below. I hope you guys are enjoying BattleBit. I am fucking addicted to the game. It's all I'm thinking about for the shooter space right now, and it's a fucking awesome experience if you guys haven't tried it already. My name is Big Brett. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Agreed. Agreed. Let's look at those numbers. Let's look at the numbers, right? Obviously just PC numbers. Battlefield 2042 right now on Steam is 12,448 in the last 29 minutes, 12,859 in the last 24 hours, and all-time peak is 100,590. Okay? $41,000. 12,000, 41,000. 12,000, 76,000. All-time peak 10 days ago was 87,000, which is, this is wrong, because that's the wrong thing. That's not the actual, that's Steam. We need to get the Steam charts, but that's different, because it was 100,000 the other day. How is that possible? See, that's different than the other one. Where is the, it was over 100,000 the other day. Where do you go for the charts? Where do you go for the charts for this thing? Here, search game. There you go. Battlebit Remaster. There's two of them. Remastered playtest. The all-time peak, this hasn't updated. Right? This hasn't updated. This has actually hit over 100,000. This had actually hit over 100, I think it was 110,000, which is more than all of these numbers or more. And I don't know if they're losing their player base. Obviously, right now it's the hot thing. We're talking about it. People are playing it. More people are buying it. But there's a fundamental problem with the space that Battlefield's in, and Battlefield was just kind of coasting by. And I'm glad that these guys made this game and are making some noise. They're making some noise. They're probably still gonna, the big wigs at the companies are probably gonna look at this and go, these guys, it's three guys making a game. This is just a flash in the pan, fly by night type of thing. But I don't think so. I think this is the real deal as far as what people want. And I know for a fact that the developers have actually listening to the player base and saying, hey, we want this, they want this, and they add it. Unlike the other conglomerate companies do, right? Click on all. No, still hasn't changed. Someone else's video showed it was over 100,000. All right, we're going to watch one more video. It's from Level Cap, and he also talks about wake up call. It's a wake up call for Battlefield. Before I start that real quick, I have to go help my son real fast. Give me 1 second. Be right back. All right. So let's watch Level Cap here.
The Battlefield meets Squad meets Roblox game, priced at $15 on Steam, developed by 3 people, has blown the gaming world wide open, showing big studios that the classic style games are still in high demand if you make them correctly.
That's exactly right, Tiny. That's exactly what EA thinks. They're like, oh, well, they just want a shitty looking graphic game with Battle Pass and Season Pass. Let's give it to them. Why 127 player team? By the way, they have 127, they have 64, and they have 32 per side. Titan.
Hitting over 80,000 concurrent players, it is absolutely pummeling both Battlefield.
Hold on 1 second. Let me rewind that again.
And style games are still in high demand if you make them correctly. Hitting over 80,000 concurrent players, it is absolutely pummeling both Battlefield and Squad player numbers.
It's beating both of those games.
Now, the craziest thing about Battlebit's success is that it's technically not a hugely innovative game. Usually, indie titles that explode in popularity in the way Battlebit has, they're doing something new and innovative, and that's what puts them on the map. They create a new demand for a genre or style that never existed before.
What's going on, Lurker?
However, Battlebit has simply shown that bigger studios have forgotten how to make a good Battlefield-like game.
Yes. Yes.
Taking the best of Battlefield and Squad and showing that it can be put into a much more accessible package without actually sacrificing the best features. They're doing the job that's typically reserved for the bigger studios. It's kind of a role reversal.
You wouldn't compare this game, Tiny, to COD, because it's not COD. This game is a Battlefield game. Battlefield is not comparable to COD as well. I've always hated the fact that people compare Battlefield to COD because they're both AAA first-person shooter games, but they're not the same type of game.
Studios typically take the indie concepts and dissect them to figure out what makes them so fun, then rebuild them with the big AAA budget quality and dominate the market. But for reasons complex and or unknown, the development of Battlefield's recent titles have missed the mark in fundamental ways, seemingly not understanding the franchise that they invented, or even their own player base. And the fact that their game is dominating the space while also looking like Roblox is totally insane. Battlefield has always relied heavily on its visual quality to market itself to a bigger audience, but because so much time and energy has been spent trying to push the visuals further and do
It's not 4 in each squad. You can have up to, I think, 7 or 8, something like that.
Doing silly stuff like tornadoes, it's easy to lose sight of the actual fundamentals of why the game is fun, and even push back sometimes on the community's requests or suggestions about why the game isn't succeeding. Battlebit simply added.
Sure, Robert, they're both in the first-person shooter space, but they're not the same type of game. One is squad-based, one is not. I mean, that's just what it is. The game modes that Battlefield was in the past and what Call of Duty was are two different games. The only reason they were compared is because they were both AAA studios, EA, Activision, going head-to-head for it.
In all the stuff that Battlefield players have consistently asked for over the many years of the franchise's history. A detailed scoreboard, a server browser, map voting.
You're absolutely right, though, competition of time. But then Call of Duty is the same as Diablo 4, which is the same as Starfield, which is the same as, Witcher 3. All games are competing for your time.
Time of day options, tons of destruction, meaningful squad play, class-specific weapons, a robust VoIP system, lots of weapons, detailed weapon stats in-game, a shooting range, a lengthy progression system, and, well, not to take itself too seriously. Let the players have some fun with the wonkiness from time to time. Battlebit hasn't really innovated. It's just learned all the lessons that the big studios seem to have forgotten over the years. On top of that, it's taken many of the best aspects of milsim gameplay and made it far more accessible. The comm system, a squad-built spawn point, bandages, building cover and bases anywhere on the map. All of that.
Yeah. The one thing that makes me mind blown is that I remember Battlefield 5. DICE was like, you're going to be able to drag the people off the battlefield. And it wasn't there at launch. It wasn't there a month after. It wasn't there 6 months after. It wasn't there a year after. It wasn't there 4 years after. They never put it in the game after they pitched it to you.
That stuff is from Squad or similar games, but Squad by itself can actually be far less accessible when you load it up for the first time. Not sure where to go, long travel times, constantly dying to weird angles and snipers before you even realize that you're in danger. Battlebit is much more like Battlefield.
Level cap is so good. He's just ridiculous.
And that it's got fantastic pacing, and even if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, it's not really hard to find the enemies and just start shooting and having fun. Healing and reviving requires bandages, medics, and those medics need to resupply from support classes. It's got all of the fun class interplay from the milsim scene, but just insanely accessible and not overly complex. Now, to be totally fair, Battlebit is being judged as a $15 indie title, which gives them a huge amount of flexibility for having some rough spots. It's also an early access game. And considering that the visuals are so basic, well, the feedback about things not looking realistic isn't even really a factor for them. So they don't have to deal with the same problems of, say, Battlefield.
There's no dragging. There's no dragging in Battlefield.
5's player visibility being really difficult to see because, well, the visuals just look so good. There's also plenty of clunky UI stuff that would be a sore spot in a $60 game that Battlebit is getting a pass for now anyway. The devs do seem to be hard at work updating, balancing, and refining the game, so I would imagine that many of these sore spots for an early access game will be refined over time. Now, when it comes to the staying power of this game, it's actually an important question. Will this game stick around for a long time? The cheap price and easy access of Battlebit is absolutely great for establishing a large player base at the start. Load it up fast, join a match, get the consistent crazy combat each time. That counts for so much in the FPS world. How quickly...
There was no dragging in Battlefield 5, Titan. They never put it in the game. They never put it in the game where you could drag somebody in Battlefield 5. They removed it before the game even came out.
Can I start playing, and will it be the fun experience that I remember it being? The past 3 Battlefield titles haven't done a great job in this department, where you can easily load into a match or a game that feels crazy imbalanced or like you're just getting nothing but steamrolled the whole time. Now, beyond just having a fun, consistent, easy-to-access experience, there's also the progression system. Battlebit has a ton of weapons to unlock and a ton of attachments to unlock, with even more on the way. And some of the guns are locked behind a fairly steep progression curve, so like needing to hit rank 120 just to use a certain gun is kind of wild. But it also gives players like really valuable long-term goals, as opposed to just like some skin that can slightly modify how their gun or their character looks. I'm very curious to see how the progression system and potentially more post-launch content supports the player base over time. Looking at Battlebit's Steam chart, we can see that the player count may have already peaked at 86,000 players and is now slowly declining. They actually almost met 2042's peak player count on Steam, which is pretty wild.
I thought they hit 100,000 from another video I watched.
Granted, 2042 also launched on multiple platforms on PC, so not a totally fair comparison, but it's still impressive. Big titles usually hit their peaks right away, like on launch day, and then they fall off a cliff when the gameplay starts to get stale or players realize that there's not that much to do other than look at the pretty graphics. But Battlebit does look like its declining player base will be much more gradual and hopefully stay.
What are you talking about? This is a developer of 3 people, boss. 3 people of a $15 game.
Stabilize at a higher spot than most of its competition. And it's entirely possible that
they're 15,000, 14,000 short of Battlefield's, like 15,000 people short of what Battlefield 2042 hit.
Down the road, updates that drastically improve the game or add cool features may even send it to new highs. Really though, everyone should just be amazed by the success of Battlebit, and studios like DICE should be laser focused on why this game is doing so well and recognize the core mechanics at play. DICE's audience is done with gimmicks, tornadoes, behemoths, levolution. It's all just trailer eye candy, and the players know this. What gamers really want is a solid core experience first and foremost, and that's what Battlebit is, a solid core experience that makes all of the best parts of Battlefield and Squad work together. They didn't reinvent the wheel, they just stripped it down to the core of what makes it great and got rid of all of the fluff. Battlebit is pulling me back into play regularly, and I'm having a blast pretty much every single time I do. Plus, I'm a stickler for games with good visuals. I like games that look good. I have a fast computer so I can run games at the highest visual setting, and that counts a lot for me. And yet, I'm continually drawn into Battlebit because...
Beautifully said, right, Level Cap? Right? He's got the highest end computer, and he wants to play the highest graphics, but he's coming back to play this game. Why? Why?
Because it's just undeniably fun, and it makes me rethink the Battlefield franchise from the ground up. and I sincerely hope that DICE is doing the same thing right now. What do you guys think? Are you playing Battlebit? Do you think this indie title is going to be popular in a year from now, or is it more of a flash in a pan? Are they only big because Battlefield has failed so hard, or did they make a unique, fun experience that can stand on its own? And
no, I think this game is doing what it's doing because, yes, because Battlefield is doing bad, these guys took an opening and made something that Battlefield was missing, right? Want to make a business, you find a place that doesn't have it. You make a product and then sell that product. Battlefield was moving away from what Battlefield was. These guys pivoted in 2017, 2018 in the history thing, and pivoted to make it from what it was supposed to be a hardcore simulator to it was supposed to be more like Squad, okay? And now it's like Battlefield. They filled in the gap of what Battlefield was missing, and this is why it's successful.
Would a great Battlefield game totally kill the interest?
Is this game ever going to beat Call of Duty numbers? No, but it doesn't need to be. They're not feeding 1,000 developers. There's 3 guys that have created this. 3. Not 300, not 3,000, 3.
In Battlebit. Let me know in the comments, and next up, check out
Let me see what he
a unique, fun experience that can stand on its own. And would a great Battlefield game totally kill the interest in Battlebit? Let me know in the comments, and next up, check out the recent squad up I did with Matimio and X Factor in Battlebit. We had an absolute blast playing, and it really shows off just how much.
If this game loses and just goes back to, I don't know, 5,000 people playing, that would still be huge for an indie developer like this, right? Like the amount of Battlefield 2042 on PC has 12,000 people playing it. This is a AAA studio that's come out with games for 2 decades. All-time peak at 100,000. And then we have Boss saying the 100,000's less than 100,000's bad. What a crap take that was, Boss. Okay. Meanwhile, Battlefield 2042 can't even break 20,000 for a AAA game that people paid 60, 70, 100, 120 and had to wait 19 months to play it. Meanwhile, we have Battlebit, 40,000 people, 3 times the amount, 3 times, 3.5 times more people playing a crappy version of Battlefield visually, and 86,000 all-time peak. That number will beat Battlefield 2042. Give it a week. They combined, Lurker. They have more maps than Battlefield and Call of Duty combined. Honeymoon phase? It doesn't matter if it's a honeymoon phase. It's 3 guys making a video game, Boss. This is not a AAA studio. Even if everyone stops playing their game tomorrow, they've made enough money to go make something else now. $10K, 24 hours peak in 2 months. I'm so confused in your argument points right now. I'm still mythed by people that bought the $120 version of 2042. Well, there's one person in chat right now that did it. Just streamed it. Payday is a week out. I bet the sales jump at least one more time. I think this is a slow cook. I think the more that the people play it, it's like being a vacuum salesman, right? You don't know the vacuum's good till you use the vacuum, and then once you use the vacuum, the word gets out, and then people go out and buy the vacuum. That's what they're going to do with this game. This game, more people are going to see it. Okay, more people are going to see it, and then they're gonna add to it. It actually wasn't the worst though. Battlefield, what's it called? I can't. Hardline was the worst Battlefield. Why are you comparing a AAA with the game with a game boss? They're two different things. Yeah, no, it's just weird. I don't understand the comparison of three guys making a video game going up against a studio with thousands of people. So ridiculous. This will be like Splitgate. It will hit the fear pitch and then drop very respective numbers. Right. But even if these guys go back down to, let's be honest, if they go back, if Battle Masters or Battlebit Remaster was doing these numbers, it would still be insane. Right? It would still be insane. The difference between this and Splitgate is that people paid to get it. Oh, was Splitgate free? Was it a free-to-play game? I don't know. I never played it. That's another thing that EA does, right? They put in stuff in the game and then they remove it from the game. Let's go look, because I'm pretty sure that Battlefield 5. Let's see. Danger to safer locations, administrative medical. They help prevent further harm to casuals and as a person attempting to first aid. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it's not in the game. That's Battlebit. Battlefield. Dragging by. Are they still? Yeah. Here's a post from 5 years ago. Are they still implementing dragging down teammates? I haven't heard anything about it in a long time. It's another feature that won't be included at launch. Let's see. Live service. Same as Battlefront. Ever. Still in the works. Still in the works. Still in the works. Let's see. Let me scroll all the way down and see if someone answered the actual question. No, never added to the game. It never added to the game. That's just crazy to me. We played it last night. I enjoyed it. I thought overall, there's a lot to get used to. It's going to take a long time to understand the 17 maps that they have in the game. Again, we played 6 matches last night. We played 4 maps. There's day-night cycles in each of the maps. There's multiple modes, game modes. There was Frontline we played last night. We played Conquest last night, and there was one other game mode we played. I personally love the new COD, and this is doing better numbers than that, so maybe it will inspire them to do better. Probably not, but we can all hope. Well, that's what I'm saying, Rose. I'm literally comparing this to Battlefield because this is not a comparison to Call of Duty. Battlefield, hopefully when this game, because of what they're doing in the game space right now, and it's getting a little bit of buzz, right? It's like when an independent movie comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden does really good, like studios look at that and go, oh, wow, like, what was it, like Blair Witch, you know what I mean? They cost like $50,000 to make, or Clerks and stuff like that, where some indie little studio comes out of nowhere and then makes a really good big blockbuster film where they're pulling in hundreds of millions of dollars. That's what we're looking at here with Battlebit Remastered, where they come into this space and now they're doing stuff that the AAA games cannot do at the very moment because whatever reason. So now, because Battlebit is out and doing what it's doing, will it kind of put a flame underneath the competition? Because again, Battlefield chasing Call of Duty is a lost cause. Call of Duty is in a space of its own. Like the amount of numbers it sells and whatnot, they only compete with themselves from other past Call of Duties if they make it better or worse or whatnot. Battlefield was trying to chase them and lost the identity of what Battlefield is. And now because there's a game like Battlefield coming into the market like this at a lower tier of price point, maybe Battlefield looks at it and says, hold up, wait, there's still a market here, type of thing. Look at then and just see a pile of dung. It's like Battlefield Lego and EA put that out, and they would be massacred. Correct, because they set the standards. When Battlefield first came out, the graphics. I mean, look at the graphics. Battlefield 1942. From 20 years ago. Is this the reversion of it? Oh no, this is the...
Welcome to Battlefield 9.
I mean, the graphics back then were fantastic, right? For that time, were fantastic. But people didn't play this game because of the graphics. They played it because of what Battlefield was, these open world game where you could get into vehicles and there was large scale battles. The gameplay is why people came back to this game. Because you could drive ships and boats and planes and do all this stuff. Then the modding community came in, right? It was just a fun, good old time. That's what Battlebit is doing right now. They're doing exactly what 1942 did 20 years ago. The only difference is the gaming space has completely changed, right? Lots more gamers, and everyone wants super graphics. I remember paying full price and then uninstalling 2042 because their servers were super bad. The servers weren't bad. The game itself was just bad, Dabstick. Turn to the first rise of Fall Guys. It's going to keep growing. Word of mouth. People just having fun playing a unique style of first-person shooter. Right, look at the other... What's the other game? Where the little pill guys. Not Fall Guys. What's the other one? Where people were competing against each other? Among Us. People laughed that game off. But word of mouth kept spreading. And Among Us, was it because of great graphics? No. It was because of good, fun gameplay. And that's what it was. Let's also not act like Minecraft art style isn't popular or successful. Right? No, Minecraft is literally the most popular game on planet Earth. So, yeah. Battlefield was the best sandbox shooter. Oh, unmistakably, absolutely, you're correct. Like, without a doubt, was the best open world shooter like this. No microtransactions and failed promises. During Battlefield 3 and beyond, there was a huge focus on graphics, in my opinion. Yeah, everyone always wanted the better graphics, and they started taking stuff out of the game. Right? They started removing stuff out of the game. It hit a pinnacle point, in my opinion, at Battlefield Bad Company 2. Bad Company 2, okay? Bad Company 2 came out. It had the fully destructible environment, and then they shifted. Battlefield 3 had a destructible environment, but they made the... Was it 3 or 4 that put the Levolution in? And then the Levolution didn't work half the time, right? Like, all of a sudden, the dam would break, but they wouldn't do anything. There was just issues that were happening. And then they started taking stuff out of the game, right? Because we're goldfish brain. We're like, oh, they did. Then they started adding stuff to the game. Battlefield 5, you could build bunkers and stuff. In Battlefield 2042, you can't, right? Fully destructible environment, and then you can't in 2042, right? It's just ridiculous. They take stuff out and charge you more money for it. Less maps, less guns, all over the place. EA Launcher is trash. I'll play Minecraft right now. EA is killing Battlefield. Yeah, I would say that, Viking. When people saw Battlefield Bad Company, is this the oh, this is the single player game. I don't want that. Let's see. Bad Company 10 years later. Right? The fully destructible environment in Battlefield Bad Company 2 was amazing. You could bring down buildings and whatnot. And look at the graphics still. The graphics still look phenomenal. The average Joe wants graphics. I don't know if the average Joe wants graphics. I think the average Joe playing Minecraft and Roadblocks, that generation's a much bigger generation than what we are as adults. So kids or whatever. But the simplicity of a game is a good game is a good game because it's fun to play, not because of visuals. I'd rather devs put more resources towards more interactive, destructible environments instead of juicing the graphics all the way up to max out. Well, you don't want to fly in tornadoes? Deadly? You don't want to fly in tornadoes? I mean, it is cool, but I call it a gimmick fest, right? I said it in the very beginning when Battlefield 2042 came out. I was like, oh, great. They took out a whole bunch of features and they're relying on gimmicks. They even showed it in the trailers when they were showing 2042. They put the music back in. They let you take that thing and fly it off the buildings and stuff. They literally lost the identity. And we know this because 80% of the people that worked at Battlefield don't work there anymore. After Battlefield 1, 80% of the developers that worked on Battlefield weren't there anymore for Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042. It's also simply doesn't matter how pretty your game is. If you can't log in and play in 2023, then cut and dry. Yeah. Flying in a tornado is fun. Then it's like, come on, again? I think it's just funny with the tornadoes. The whole heroes and specialists, whatever Battlefield is, was dumb as fuck. Yeah, because that's not what Battlefield is. We weren't trying to play Overwatch. You know what I mean? We weren't trying to play Overwatch. We just wanted to play Battlefield. We just want to get into the game and play the game. I should probably play Portal more in Battlefield. I was going to play 2042 this week, right? Because we've been playing Diablo for a couple weeks. I was like, I'm going to go back, because we'll go back to Division. We'll go back to... I don't think I'm going to go back right now. I want to go back and play some more Battlebit Remaster because I'm having a blast in that game. I want to learn more of the ins and outs of the maps and the guns and unlock stuff. I love these gameplay versus graphics argument, but no way can Starfield be 30 frames per second gamers. 30 frames per second gamers. There's a line. So what happens in Starfield is fun. It doesn't matter if it's 30 frames. I personally, Tiny, don't care that it's 30 frames. I've said this multiple times. I've said I don't care that it's 30 frames. I'm not a frames guy. I don't care that if it's 60 frames or 30 frames. I just care if it's a good story and a good game. That's what I've said. I just made my own build completely from scratch and tanker rogue, and then usually, but still great damage. Portal has been better than the base game. I said this in the past, Robert. I think they should have just, instead of making Battlefield 2042, they should have just made Portal. I think it would have been a better, where you can go back and play all the older games waiting for like the new game to come out. I think that would have been great. I feel like they added Portal and took away from 2042, and 2042 was broke, but you could go back and play the older versions. EA can remake 2042, and I'll buy it. They made the 1943 version, which was a great little version on the Xbox 360 when it came out. That was a fantastic game. That was basically 42 with redone graphics. No. Portal game mode inside of Battlefield. No, it's not 60 on the X. It's locked. It's locked on 30. Maybe down the road, but locked at 30 on the console. No. Portal game mode in Battlefield 2042. This was the pinnacle of Battlefield for me. I love Bad Company. Bad Company 1 and 2. I remember when they talked about the physics, about the fully destructible environment and stuff. And people were just like, "Ah, that's crazy." Well, they have Zempella now. If they can't turn it around, Battlefield is doomed. Well, it looks like they had 19 months since he's been there. They did turn Battlefield around. But at the same time, I don't know. Hopefully they... I don't want Battlefield ever to be gone. I don't. It's one of my favorite franchises. PC gamers are going to be mad with Starfield. It doesn't hit 60 frames. It probably won't hit 60 frames unless you have like a 4090. Be honest. Let's be honest. Let's see. We had Big Fried TV. We watched his thing. That'll like his name to the list. And then we also watched Level Cap. That to the list as well. Since you watched their videos. Not that Level Cap needs my help in any way, shape, or form, but their names, all the videos that we watched today are in the description down below. So if you guys want to go watch their content or give it a like, it'd be much appreciated since we watched it over here. I used to be able to manage to play 30 frames per second. Now I'm just too old. Now to manage a 2-hour gameplay on 30 frames. Yeah, I don't get nauseous or sick like that. But then again, I understand the people that do. I'm one of those people that it doesn't bother. I play 30 frames games all the time. I play 60 frame games all the time. I go back and forth between them all the time. It doesn't bother me. I also don't get sick on roller coasters, and I can go skydiving. So, each their own. I think it'll take the next game to show what they're really pushing for Battlefield. Well, aren't they working, or did they cancel all? Didn't they say they're working on a mobile game for Battlefield? I like to know where they're going to go with Battlefield next. They're going to go back in the old days? Are they going in the future? Like, what are they doing? Like, are they going farther than 2042? We're going to 3042. We're going to have laser guns. It's going to be like Moonraker from James Bond, where we're fighting in space. I mean, what are we going to do? That being said, 30, what do you want to see in the next battle? I don't know. What I like about the old, and I know a lot of people don't like World War II anymore because they're kind of tired of it, is that there's so many battles that you can put into a battlefield with World War II. Now, I like Battlefield 1, like World War I stuff with the prototype weapons that they put in there. I thought that was good. But what I like about it is the world right now is like super offensive about everything, right? You put something in, you put a bad guy into a game, they have to be an unnamed source, right? They can't be like the Russians or the Germans or the French or anything like that, or the Italians, because someone will be like, well, wait a minute, I'm German and I'm Italian and I'm offended that you made us the bad guys. It's like, okay, great. Let's go back to the old school where we know who the bad guys were. Okay. And they could just do, this is why I like Hell Let Loose. This is why I like games where we're just moments in time in history that were in the battle. You know what I mean? I'm afraid of them to make a Bad Company 3 because I'm afraid they're just going to fuck it up anyway. And if they're going to screw it up, then just make a different Battlefield. I want to see a Battlefield game. Choice of platform was because they wanted the best experience. Grabbing a platform to go backwards defeats the purpose to me. Robert Jones says, I'm over World War I and II. We've had more Battlefield games in present day than we had in the past. "2042 wasn't a bad game. It wasn't received very well when it came out, Tiny. Eat a book. I want North African World War II Battlefield. Korean just snapped on Street Fighter 6 because the Korean stage looked too much like China. That's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying, Stubby. Like, the world is in a very like touchy state right now, right? You can't make, even when you watch Top Gun Maverick, okay? Top Gun Maverick, you didn't know who they were going up against to blow up the the base, right? It was an unnamed faction because they don't want to offend anybody. And it's like, it's a movie, right? But it's just weird to me. So if you're gonna make a present day war, then you got to make up like a fake faction and whatnot, and you got to base it into like it's just stop with the chaos. Just put it back into World War II and just do maps. This is why I like I said, Hell Let Loose. Hell Let Loose does the different battles that you're going on during that time frame. We know they have a story-based Battlefield coming for sure. Well, if they're doing the Battlefield Bad Company 3, I just hope they do it justice. The reason they made games for PlayStation 3 and Xbox One were upscale. Definitely fine line to walk. I don't like the future stuff. I don't like the past stuff. I don't like the future stuff. I just want basic bitch modern combat today kind of stuff. Yeah, and that's the problem though, boss. They can't do it. And he says, I like Vietnam. I thought Vietnam was so crazy. The best part about Vietnam, Battlefield Vietnam, Eddie, was the helicopters and you could blast the music and stuff. That was cool. But you would the time to live in that game was everyone was in a bush. Everyone was in a bush. The EA can make a good story, especially if it's the only focus. Sure, EA can make good stories. We've seen them with other games that they've made. But we also don't play Battlefield games for stories. We play for the multiplayer after the fact. Like, you could put a story in. Bad Company had a really good 1 story and 2 story. If they do a Bad Company 3, sure, I'll play through the story. I liked it. I even liked the small little stories they did in Battlefield 1. I thought those were great as well. Is that a quote from them? We're putting multiple studios together. We're bringing the best talent together and giving them the time to do something amazing. 3 guys made Battlebit Remastered. I love that we're putting 3,000 people together. Better hope that game works well. Better hope that game works well. You know, the stories are fine. Like Modern Warfare stories and stuff, they're great, but you play them, you beat them in 8 hours, and then for the next year, 2 years, you're playing multiplayer. That's what you're playing. You could think it's to keep timeless by doing the nameless villains for Top Gun. No, Titan. It's literally meant so it doesn't start a World War III when they take the movie and they put it into Russia, or they put it into Germany, or they put it into some other country, Korea, China, so they don't think. That's why the bad guys were in unmarked planes and unmarked masks, and you couldn't even see a human, because if you could see a skin color, then you would think it was someone, and then they could start something up. No. 100%, trust me, I work in the film industry, or worked in the film industry, they 100% kept it nameless because they didn't want to make anyone mad and make the best money, not because of timeless stuff. 100%. In the 80s, we had plenty of movies with Russia as the bad guys because of the Cold War. Nowadays, you can't do anything like that. We're putting 3 people together and giving them $500 each. Right. Kawa's great stories based on actual history. Battlefield makes stories based on current influences. I mean, Bad Company was basically the story of Hogan. Was it Hogan's Heroes? Right? It was Hogan's Heroes. No, was it not Hogan's Heroes? What movie? Oh God. I forget what the hell it was. Kelly's Heroes. Thank you, Sarge. Thank you, Tiny. Thank you, Larker. Yeah, it's exactly what it is, boss. So Russia and China could buy tickets. They literally change things in movies so they don't get other people mad so they can put it in there. I mean, current Battlefield games. This is why you can do history movies, because as long as when you're doing a film about World War II, you could tell the story because it's history. It's in the past. Can't make future wars with people that haven't happened yet, because people are like, wait a minute, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? I mean, it makes sense. If Top Gun's international revenue doubled, it's revenue, then you got to be careful. Yeah, it's exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, you're not wrong, Titan, by saying it's timeless in that way, sure, but that's not the reason they did it. They didn't do it because of timeless. They did it because of box office. Makes most money possible because secretly he's visiting the high table monthly and still pays his contribution. Yeah, I wonder if Mission Impossible is going to beat. I think it's going to break $1 billion. I just don't think it's going to break more than what Top Gun did. And I'd be okay if I was wrong. Hogan's Heroes would make a decent military sneaker. Stealth missions for intel, outdated humor, pre-order incoming. Mo says, I like turtles. What's going on, Mo? Yeah, so tonight we're going to play some more Battlebit Remastered. You're damn right there's a Game Pass emote right here. We talk about Game Pass so much, Robert, that we just decided to make it an emote. We made it just for Mo. Just for Mo. I was trying to come up with a PlayStation one, but I didn't know what to use for the PlayStation. And nobody says it's on PlayStation Plus. So it's like a running joke. I'm sure. I mean, that's what it is. It literally, because we always say I'm going to try it. Why? Because it's on Game Pass. It's exactly right. It literally fits for my content that I have on the thing. Not to make any PlayStation people lose their mind. A blue #1 in the PlayStation emote. Yeah, but we're not trying to go back and forth, Lurker, as who's better. The only reason the Game Pass is there is because everyone asks, hey, are you going to play that game? I'm like, is it on Game Pass? See, but Boss takes it as I'm doing it because I'm an Xbox fanboy, not because that's where my content is. But, I watched Team America last night. It's crazy how I predicted the world today. Yeah. Not gonna lie, 30. They almost sold me on that Starfield controller. I love PlayStation controllers, but that thing was nice. Yeah, it does look nice. A Jim Ryan emote. I did not try Fist. Is it on Game Pass? Is it on Game Pass, Mo? See, look, it's that fast, right? He asked me because Mo's typing, did you try Fist? I said, is it on Game Pass? Yes, sir. There it is. See? Works for my channel. Has nothing to do with who I prefer over the other person. It literally is just in context. Always has, always will be. In 6 months, that won't be on Game Pass. What won't be on the Game Pass? What won't be on Game Pass, boss, in 6 months? Fist or Bramble? You mean you don't have an Xbox due to your underlying love for Microsoft? Yeah, no, I'm totally paid by them. 100%. What won't be on Game Pass in 6 months? Oh, it doesn't matter. As a content creator, I'm fine with it. Won't be on Game Pass in 6 months? Final Fantasy 16. There you go. Final Fantasy 16 won't be on Game Pass in 6 months. A lot of paid Xbox fans. Yeah, I get a check in the mail every month from Xbox, from being an Xbot. You see, Boss only brings in one thing to this channel. He has to find a way to make it about Sony PlayStation and how he is a PlayStation fan and everybody else is wrong. That's the only thing Boss brings to the conversation for the last couple of months. Doesn't matter what it is. We're talking about Battlebit Remastered and Battlefield. And for some strange reason, you always bring it around to Sony. Lurker brought it up. Lurker brought it up because of an emote. Because in the context, I said I was going to make a PlayStation emote. It's crazy, the context. Lurker's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't agree with me, boss. Final Fantasy 16 on Game Pass would still be getting talked about people right now. People would lose their mind, Mo, because I know that because of the documents in the court hearing that they said that they were going to make a bid for Final Fantasy, people would lose their shit. It would be a dumb move for Microsoft considering they're not known for the JRPG. It's either PlayStation or slaying noobs in first-person games. Big dick energy. That's about right. All right. It's 12:24. We're closing out here for the day. We'll be back tonight for some BattleBit remasters. We'll play some more of that tonight. I think we are going to do a Generation X Gaming podcast tomorrow night. Sarge, we're going to use his Xbox to get him into Discord because you can link your Xbox to your Discord now. So you'll hear Sarge on the show tomorrow night, but you will not see Sarge on the show tomorrow night. It'll be just a picture of Sarge's cartoon character in the window. Other than that, if you guys like the content today, we talked about Apple and Epic. We talked about the new Nintendo Switch potential rumors coming out, and then we talked about Battlebit Remastered, the history, and they went over what they're doing right and what Battlefield is doing wrong. If you guys liked any of that content, please make sure you hit the like button down below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and if you'd like to go above and beyond that, you can hit the membership button for a little as $5 a month. Appreciate it very much. We'll be back tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, for some more Battlebit Remastered. Peace.